primero que me contaras qué diferencia hay entre este Hannibal Lecter y el resto de los Hannibal Lecter de las otras películas. ¿Pero que me vas a hablar en español?
No, te voy a hablar en inglés.
Vale.
Entiende las preguntas.
¿Que me entiendes en español?
Sí. She asked about the character or the film? ¿La película o...?
The character, your character.
Character. So I think this character is different in the sense that, first of all, he's much younger, so of course he is very different because he hasn't experienced all the killings in the prison yet, so he is not in the same advanced psychopath psychology yet. And also in this film, I think we get a glimpse of this more human aspect that this character had during his earlier life. So it's a good thing because then the audience can identify itself to the character way more than in previous.
¿Por qué crees que las personas al final o la gente que va a ver la película se identifica con el personaje e incluso piensa que sus acciones no son tan malas?
Well, that's another topic, but I think people like to identify themselves to this character because he is a monster in a way, but at the same time he is very classy, very witty, educated, talented. He had a whole bunch of qualities that a lot of people are sensitive to, and I think this character, well, Tom Harris managed to create a character that seduced the audience. That's why he became so popular.
¿Qué crees que es el motivo principal que lleva a Hannibal Lecter convertirse en Hannibal Lecter? Es decir, un asesino, un caníbal. ¿Cuáles son las principales causas de ello?
Well, that made him become what he is. Well, I think in this story you have a small idea of why he became like this, but I don't really like the idea of trying to justify all those savage killings. I think this story is mainly about how he became like this and not why he became like this. But it's kind of obvious that this earlier trauma during his childhood, when he lost his family, influenced his future behaviors. And I think all the relationship with his Japanese aunt, Lady Murasaki, is very important in the evolution of the character, because this is the moment in his life where he got all this weird education. He received all this bizarre education from this lady, and they remain in this castle in a kind of insane relationship. So I think that in a way this lady might be responsible for a part of his future crime.
Entonces, la relación de Lady Murasaki y Hannibal, ¿en qué se centra? ¿En qué está basada principalmente?
¿Qué what?
What's it based on, the relationship mainly?
Well, I think well, first of all, he goes to her because she's the only relative still living that he has as an orphan. So that's why he goes to France to visit her. But then they have many things in common, because this lady has a kind of the same story. She lost her family in Hiroshima, and she still has some nightmares about the way they were killed in this horrible war. And so I think this is why they feel so close from one to another. And I think there is some love that is starting to build up between the two characters, and so at the same time I think she is like her mother, and she might remind him of her sister in some ways, because he is trying to protect her. And also there is this insane relationship with a bit of love, a mixture of different feelings. So it's very bizarre.
¿Cuántas veces has visto las películas de Hannibal Lecter para basar tu personaje?
I think I can't really tell you, but I watched the 3 films once or twice, and then I watched only Silence of the Lamb. I focused on Silence of the Lambs, and I might have watched it maybe 10 times, I don't remember. But then I was just skipping some moments to just go directly to the key scenes to observe Anthony Hopkins. So I can't really tell you how many times, but a lot. But at some points during the shooting, I stopped watching Anthony Hopkins. It depended on the scene I was working on, because for some scenes it was very helpful to keep in mind Anthony Hopkins' performance, and for other scenes I was trying to get away of Anthony Hopkins' performance, to add new thing or to try to create something.
Esa era mi pregunta ahora, porque es inevitable que comparen la película de Anthony Hopkins con la que has hecho ahora.
Sí.
Entonces, ¿te molesta que comparen las dos actuaciones, las dos interpretaciones?
Well, I knew when I accepted the project that people would always try to compare my character to his character. But as I said before, this character is much younger and had to be a bit different. So I still had to link my character to the older version, but I was kind of free to create my own Hannibal Lecter. So, it was a bit tricky sometimes. I think that the main thing was a subtle question of dosage, to try to remind of Anthony Hopkins for the audience, and at the same time to add my own vision of the character. But this film is very different. It's different in its treatment. It's a different story taking place in a different country. I don't think there is direct comparison that has to be made with the previous films. It's like the latest James Bond. It's very different from the previous one, and Daniel Craig, the actor, is very different from the previous actors. So it's the kind of same situation where that people are going to compare you to the previous films, but at the same time it's a bit tricky because it's very different.
Una cosa que tiene tu personaje diferente respecto a Hannibal, a los otros actores que han interpretado a Hannibal Lecter, es, por ejemplo, la cicatriz en la cara, que muchas personas cuando ven tu película dicen, uy, cuando era joven Hannibal Lecter tenía una cicatriz que luego con Hopkins y con los otros actores no está. ¿Eso ha chocado al público, por ejemplo?
Yeah, maybe. Well, this is, but it's a fictional character, and you can't really precisely have someone looking exactly like the older version of the character. So obviously, yeah, you have to pass on some details like this. Otherwise, it's not possible to do a prequel. And if you watch, and also it depends, because there's Anthony Hopkins, but there's also Brian Cox that did one of those films. So it depends with who you want to compare the character. For me, this character is taken from a novel and not from a film. So then we're free to do whatever we want.